Welcome to Know You Matter. This is real conversations for people who want to feel a little bit better without being given a to-do list.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm the restoration coach and I'm Lauren's mum.
And I'm Lauren. I'm the restoration strategist.
And we are ever so glad that you're here.
Bonjour. Hello.
Oh, I always feel like I should know how to say something in a different calamera.
Hola.
When you do that, I'm never prepared fully.
Sorry. I don't know why I can't just say hello in English. It just sounds really boring.
I don't.
Hello.
Just say it in whatever
Hello.
language you want.
Hola.
And whatever tone you want.
Hello.
That's the joy of this.
Welcome to this episode.
Yeah, welcome to this episode. We've just had a bit of a conversation prior to this episode, haven't we?
Shocked
Because
that we converse in between.
yeah, we converse in between. And in fact, actually, that's such a good segue into the fact that we also converse in the car, don't we?
Oh, if anybody is listening to this who has sound system recording kind of knowledge, how would we record podcasts while driving? Because that is one of the best places that we have conversations. They're always so deep and they're so real and all that kind of thing. And you probably will hear me swear at people because that's what happens when I'm driving a car. But I would love to just get mic'd up and record a podcast while driving. In fact, we should do it on our next road trip.
I was literally just thinking, it's our version of carpool karaoke.
Literally. So how would I do
I
that?
don't know.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, I know how you do that, you'd get this microphone and
Yeah,
Just-
our
can you send-
Sarah.
Yeah,
Our
get
Sarah,
down on
speak
it.
to Dan.
Get down on it. Get someone to send me an email with how to do that. I'm not interested in spending thousands of pounds on this. So
yeah, it's got to be
pitch me,
cost
bugger off.
effective.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyway.
But yeah, so we have some really deep conversations, don't we?
Car conversations.
And I want to talk about something that's because we had a particularly deep conversation last month, which was kind of instigated by me.
It was almost like you had to word vomit. Like you were so I felt this need to say it. It was almost like you'd been waiting to say it.
Can I ask you, what do you feel I shared from your point of view?
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot now.
You don't need to, obviously not word for word, but how did it? So actually, let me just say first of all, so I got in the car and I felt like this container of all of this emotion.
Yeah.
Some of it was sadness, some of it was a bit of frustration, but it was like this energy within me that I needed to start to speak about speaking, which sounds really ridiculous because I'm on a podcast and, if you listen every single week to us and we do talk about things that matter, and I know that I don't always talk about the things that matter openly outside of my home and my car conversations with Lauren and possibly the people that are closest to me that know what really does matter to me. And I realise that I don't often share my thoughts on places like Instagram and Facebook. And it is one of the things that I do want to do more. And I kind of got in the car, didn't I? And I literally just said, have you got space for me? Which was a really important question to ask because I was about to kind of share how I was feeling about speaking up and my fear, I can feel myself, my fear that by not saying what matters to me, that I am being complicit and almost silently agreeing with these things that I'm seeing happening around me. And that's not the case. And yet I think what I really understood about myself was that I've grown up in a world where I learned to be a good girl. I know I did. I know. Be a good girl, shut up, listen, do as you're told.
Don't piss anyone off.
Yeah, don't rattle anybody's cage, don't piss them off, don't get people to be upset with you because and I know that all of this is wrapped up in this, the people-pleasing tendencies that they want to be loved and respected and to get all of that. And it is not and has not served me for a while. And I've not known how to be able to deal with this. How do I want to start this off? And how do I... Because, right, when we first started this, one of the things that we did was we looked at a vision and a mission. And we wanted to get 9 million women. It was exactly that, wasn't it? And, and when we first said it out loud, and I remember thinking, oh, wow. And then this little voice goes, ridiculous. Like, it's almost that thing. But I don't think it is because I think that's what the world needs. It needs voices. And and I'm not just talking about women. I think we need to change this now. I think
9 million people who are not cis-het white men.
Yeah.
So the people who don't just already have all of the power.
Yeah, and I think some of those men,
Yeah.
you know, I think some men don't feel that they have that power and maybe don't speak up, and I think this
Just
is
people who feel silence.
yeah, feel silenced, and maybe that is from their past, maybe it's from what's happening in the present moment, and the fact that, you know, they watch what happens when people do speak up, and that just really has been
and the danger.
It's been sitting on me
people.
for weeks and weeks, because I would, you know, I'll be really open. I know that I have silenced myself, and I know that I've felt silenced by what I'm seeing, because, you know, this whole thing. And actually, I'd like to read something, because I wrote something, and I know I've said this to you, Lauren, haven't I? About
I think it's really important.
So I kind of want to. It's this whole thing about being human. When I first started this company with you, we created a training that we haven't used any further yet.
No. It was
we
brilliant
did it,
with the people we used.
Yeah, we did it for an organisation that wanted to look at, you know, they were a care organisation that wanted to look at how they, you know, really worked with people in a way that was highly empathetic and compassionate. People that, you know, were going through challenging circumstances, and we created it. And being human, I always remember the manager. What a lady, saying to me when I read that title, I thought, what the hell? She said, "Now I get it. Now I get it." And that for me is this whole bit about not losing our humanity, and you know, it's hard not to, when you see the news or you read some of the stuff that's happening on social media, not to feel this sense of what the actual fuck is going on. Like, and that's why, go back to our last episode where we were talking about, you know, not wanting to always have to stay calm. I don't want to. I want to use my voice for good. I have a voice. Yeah, and I have a privilege that I get to do this. I get to do this, and I get to speak
share
to people. You know, and
I
want to
safely share it as well.
Yeah, and can I also say, share the opinion of other people that I align with, because their values align with me. You know, values of justice, values of respect, values of humanity.
Connection.
Yeah, and connection, absolutely. So I've made notes because it really mattered, and a lot of this came on holiday when I had that space to really sit and think about what was going on. And it's funny, right? I'm going to share something that I'm noticing. Interoception. So I have an ache here. I can feel it.
If you're not watching, Mum is like
I'm touching my neck
in front of her chest. Yeah, it's almost like, and I can see that you keep grabbing your collar, like, and almost like trying to stop it.
This is it. That's it. And it's this fear. I can feel it. This little girl, this little part of me wants to cry. She's almost going, don't
share it.
Don't share this. Don't say all these things out loud, because what if people don't like you? I can feel it. So I really wanted to just share that with you, because
even with someone who's done all of your work,
feet on the floor, I'm grounded. It's okay to do this, but I can feel this visceral reaction and this fear of you know, being heard and saying what matters to me in that way, and these my eyes need to just kind of demystify because I can't see.
And she doesn't have a glass.
But I think this whole bit about, you know, wanting to show up in this world is deeply human, and it does take courage. I do, and I acknowledge that, you know, and I've had to work on this, and acknowledge that, you know, there's a real tension behind the desire to speak out against oppression and the wish to do so in a way that honours compassion. The fact that there is nuance, nothing is black and white. We've already talked about that previously. And also to have the utmost respect for people, and to keep that. And that is the position that I am coming from with this as well. So I wrote something down that I did want to just say, because I do feel I've been quiet for a long time. I have sat a number of times in our podcast, Lauren, and, you know, listen to the way that you beautifully articulate how you feel about something or something that truly matters to you. And I feel myself, you know, kind of almost go in a little bit and sit with it, and kind of, and I think some of that's great. Some of that's great, because actually what I'm doing is I'm pausing. I'm pausing, I'm considering things, I'm thinking about where I stand with things. But I also know that some of that is this like cage that stops me. And I think I've been quiet for a long time, because not because I don't care, but because I've been scared of getting it wrong. And I think that's a big thing for me in this world, is this fear of getting things wrong. Also, scared of standing out, because when you stand out, you know that whole thing about you put your head above the parapet,
And then
you're now a target,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't want that, because I think that's also been me.
Yeah.
I've been this woman who has said what I've needed to say because I wanted the respect. But what I know now is that doesn't get me the respect. That doesn't. People pleasing tendencies do not get you that respect. It was always my way of getting people to love me. But do you know what? I don't always agree with people. And I want to be able to talk out loud about what matters and what I care about, because I see it in the people that I'm around a lot of the time, that, you know, they're not using their voices. And I talk about this a lot. And you know, within the space of my coaching, I can support people to do that. What's really matters then is I do it.
Yeah, embodying
I
what we're
don't
talking
have to embody everything that I taught. What I do, because do you know what it is?
Yeah, and it doesn't
I've
have
just
to be
stopped myself.
always.
No,
It's a learning and it's a process.
Yeah.
But actively working towards embodying everything we share.
in the things that I've done in my past, I talked more passionately about it when I lived it. My experience of it. So this matters to me for those reasons. And I wrote there that this fear of, you know, standing out maybe, or being wrong, or being judged, or saying something that might upset somebody. You know, I have held back on my thoughts and feelings and opinions because of all of those reasons. And lately though, and I would say it's probably been the last few months, that silence has started to feel like I'm agreeing
Like complicity.
with, this complicity. Silently complicit.
Yeah.
When I actually have thoughts on things, and you know, I can't agree with what's happening in the world at the minute. And also, I do think that if we're not saying things, if we're not standing up, and I specifically at the moment and are talking about what feels like the dehumanization of, you know, races, particular races, people across the world, and I am not okay with that. Like I can really. Oh, I can feel I'm not okay with it. The other thing that I don't want to do though is I'm not prepared to get into a fight. I'm not prepared to fight about it at all.
Yeah.
This is because that's what this is inviting.
Yeah.
It's inviting a fight.
And to be because I feel like this is where the nuance is, and that I want to be really clear for people listening. This isn't to say that when you're being oppressed you shouldn't fight.
Oh no.
This is not like I understand the Stonewall riots.
Absolutely.
Like I'd have been fucking there. Like
Tomorrow's No King's Day in America.
Oh, the thought, like I
wish it was there.
tried to go to the Palestinian protest in London, but do you know how much it would have cost me on the train? Over £200 one way to get to London. Like how? Anyway, this is not the space to argue about the transport system in the UK. But anyway, you know, I'm gonna let you talk because I've just lost it. My train of thought.
No, but it's a bit. What you were saying was it is about the nuance. It's not about
Yeah,
not
this
getting
isn't
angry.
This isn't about not getting angry.
I am not
this
saying not getting angry. No, because actually,
the not fight isn't about like sit
Blame.
there and take it. Yeah, it isn't about that. It's this is the thing I stand for and the thing I'm going to stand up for, and I'm not going to stand here and throw stones at you to make this feel better for me. It's that. It's
exactly,
that, like,
and blame. So it's not.
Like I'm not
it's
going to
your
call
fault
you.
or whatever.
You're a problem.
Exactly.
This is like no. I am standing for all humans deserve space in this world.
Yeah.
All humans deserve to be free. All humans deserve to love who they choose to love.
I want to use my anger
for that. To support that.
Yeah,
and not to throw stones at.
Yeah.
Like it's that. It's
that,
not
most definitely. So
I just wanted to be clear on that. Sorry.
Absolutely, no, I love that, and I this is what I want as we talk is that we do that. So I put the way people are being treated, the cruelty, the injustice. This does go against everything that I believe in, and I know that because I'll see something, and I do kind of protect myself a little bit from what happens. I don't watch the news every single day because actually a lot of it is it's one view rather than a lot of views.
And it's also that awful negative thing where they don't share. The news is, we've talked about this before, and I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but it's like for every for every one negative, we need 3
Positives.
positives to feel balanced. And the news doesn't exist like that. So the news is 95% negative, and therefore no wonder we come off dysregulated. No wonder we stop finishing the news and we feel hopeless and we feel like there's
and
no
afraid.
point. Because they're so biased,
and that's the reason
to
that
the negative.
what we do, what we talk about,
and
matters.
they only share one side of person's thoughts. I've just gone dark.
I have no idea
Hello,
what just happened
my
there. We
lights
just
just
lost
turned
the.
off.
Yeah, so we have no idea, but
You can still see me, so it's fine. But I've got a little bit blue. Oh, I like this. Sorry, my lights just turned off. If you're not watching, that's what just happened. That's why we went a bit cray. Anyway, yes. So please continue to share, because I'm loving this.
I was brought up to treat people with respect, and
Grandad.
to stand up for what's right. And I do feel that I got that from my dad. I do feel I saw the way that he treated people, the kindness that he had for them, the way he still does that now. And you know, he's far from perfect. Definitely, perfect is how he would say it, and I love that about him. And it's what's really important is to remember what happens when humanity forgets its heart, because this is the bit, isn't it? You know, about actually the kindness and the respect. And within humanity, that's what we need to keep in our minds, most definitely. And I don't want to add, I don't want to add more hate or more shouting, you know, to the noise. I also don't want to sit quietly whilst people suffer.
Yeah.
Because it's not okay. And I want to be able to use this podcast to be able to learn how to use my voice more, and to do that, and to show up more and talk about these things. And get things wrong, and maybe have people come to me and give me different perspectives, because I think that's the beauty of it for me.
Yeah.
Coming back to things like the Human Library Organisation, which we've spoken about before, for me that's what matters. Like I have one view of the world, and I need to, you know, encourage myself often, which I do, to look at different views of the world.
Not live in an echo chamber.
And to see it differently. And that's why I love living in a community that is multicultural, because
and diverse,
because it's like, just because I do things one way doesn't mean it's the right way, you know. And I think it's really important to be able to see that. So I just finished this bit. I stand against oppression. I speak from compassion, not anger. You know, this is about listening, even when I don't agree. I think that is so important, because that's what happens when we don't agree with somebody. We often then start this fight. And that's like, when we understand.
Yeah.
Often people's perspectives, and there is a nuance. There are different circumstances, as we've said, where fighting is important. But actually, when we listen, and we understand,
and accept that not everything has to be something we agree on.
No,
because I think that's it. I think there are things that we have to, as a community of humans, go. We don't all have to agree. We do have to agree. We're not going to harm people. We have to agree, you know, and we kind of agree on all those things. But the opinions don't have to change. Like, so just talking about Grandad, right? Because Grandad didn't hit me, not metaphorically, with a with a thought when I was younger. And this is what comes to my head whenever we talk about Grandad, right? And we were talking about, because I was mildly obsessed. I was looking at Hyperfocus with World War II when we were younger, and we were talking about things. And I was talking about how evil Hitler is. And I'm not going back on that. Like, that's not where I'm going with this. And he didn't ask
conversations with God.
Yeah, he didn't ask me this question because he disagreed with me. He asked me this question because he wanted to get me to think. And he said to me, "Do you think Hitler thought he was right?" And I was like, "Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he thought it, because what he did was wrong." And I still believe that. I still absolutely believe that what happened was wrong. But he's like, "That's not what I'm asking you." It's like, what I'm asking you is, do you think Hitler thought he was right? And I was like, well, yeah. And he was like, okay, why is your right better than his right? And he wasn't trying to get me to agree with him or change my stance, because he obviously agreed. Like, we're Polish by descent and all that kind of stuff, aren't we?
Yeah, and Jewish.
So so like, obviously that's not what's happening. But it was just this, like, had I ever considered how he got to that point where he just truly believed he was in the right? And it's not my job to judge whether he's right or wrong, but it's my job to stand up for the people and go, and they did not deserve that. So it's the same as, you know, with what's going on around the world now. It's not my job to turn around and say whether those people are right or wrong, but it is my job to stand up with the Palestinians and go, and these people deserve their homes. And these people deserve their life.
And dignity.
And dignity. And yeah, and the lack of dehumanization. And one of the things actually that I've really, really become aware of is the nuance of words. And I adore Barack Obama, right? Like, can we just have him back immediately? Or Kamala, and they are not perfect.
Mm-mm.
They are not perfect. They have allowed this genocide to happen. They're allowing these things across the world to happen. They're not perfect, and I personally have the opinion they would be a better choice than what we currently have in the US. But Barack Obama shared a statement about the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza, and he'd shared, and the wording was, Israeli families and the Palestinian people deserve this to stop, right? And like on the surface, of course that makes sense. But the nuance of the way he said that, Israeli families, Palestinian people. That is dehumanization. And I don't think he meant that. I don't think there was any purpose behind that at all. But if we don't start to call that nuance out, because what happens is we don't notice when people are being dehumanized. That's the scary part for me. So we are then silent, and not because, you know, it's not purposeful, but I think a lot of the time we're not even aware of these things happening. So like, it was someone else had called that out, and I was like, I wouldn't have even noticed. But that is quiet dehumanization of people. Just the quiet dehumanization of saying that they're people, but they're families. Because we perceive that differently. When you say family, you see parents and children and grandparents, and you see the layers of that and the nuance of that and the humanity in that. When you say people, you see a crowd. You see a lack of distinguishability. And it's like, no.
Yeah, why
those
is one different to the
Palestinians
other?
are families. And do you know what? And the reason a lot of them aren't anymore is because they were, you know, unalived. I don't know if I'm allowed to say killed on a podcast. I guess we'll find out. But do you know what I mean? So it was just a really interesting thing for me to have started to notice the nuance of the way that we speak, and where am I contributing to it? Because I think that's one of the things as well with starting to speak up for what we truly believe in. And I think we all think we're on the right side. Like, that's the scary thing, isn't it? Is that I think I'm on the right side of history, and the people who disagree with me also believe they are, and that's the hard part. But it's having the backbone to say, I believe I'm right, and I'm willing to listen. Because for me, that looks like journaling decentering whiteness, buying books that are about the fact that actually I am still contributing to systemic racism without realizing a lot of the time. And it's like, we're really fucking lucky to have the privilege of having a podcast where we two white women get to talk about this kind of stuff. And when we're saying the things that matter to us, and I think this is why what you're saying is so powerful, because even you, who I perceive as someone who is opinionated and inspirational and all of this kind of stuff, even you feel like you have to shut up.
And I feel like I don't say enough. And I feel like I don't stand up for the people who need standing up
Yeah.
for. And I have that privilege to be able to do that. And just also be this human person. I've met two people just even in the last 24 hours. The most loveliest woman. When I go on holiday, I really love talking to the people that work there wherever I go to. It's why I like small and friendly places, because you know I've been a chambermaid, I've worked in hotels, I've worked behind bars, I've done all of those kind of jobs, I've cleaned toilets, I've done all of that. I've been homeless. I've seen what that's like. You were wee tiny 3 months old, and I lived in bed and breakfast for a bit of time, and just this humanity of who these people are. And it was just this real moment. And I really can't get over how emotionally. And when I share what this lady said to me, it wasn't particularly about that. It's just that she took the time to come and speak to me, and then what it did to me afterwards. Because we were literally sat waiting for the bus to come and pick us up yesterday. And, I was sat in the sunshine and Dad was sat in the shade. And I saw the lady that was cleaning the rooms. And she did a lovely lady, gorgeous smile, blonde hair up on the top of her head. And the last couple of days we've been giggling. They'd come to clean the room, and we've just gone really dark completely.
Hang on, let me just pause. We're just going to pause and go back in 1 minute. We were being silenced by the lack of battery in the lights as we were recording.
Yeah, we've just realised they weren't plugged
Not
in.
plugged in. Whoops. Anyway, hello, we're back again.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good because I giggled and it gave me a moment just to kind of like
reset yourself.
yeah, and she just so it was, yes, we'd been chatting, this lady who cleans the rooms, and we'd been chatting just a little bit. She's given us some extra water for travelling and stuff like that as well. And they'd knocked to see about cleaning the rooms, and I was like, no. Like, we don't need anything cleaning. We don't need clean towels. We don't. Oh, just water. If you got water, that'll do. Anyway, she out of the blue came around where I was, and I just said, "Thank you ever so much for everything." Yeah, we're going. And she just came up to me and she just said to me, "You're such a pretty." She said, "You're such a pretty woman," and I was like, "Oh." And really kind of shocked. I wasn't expecting that. And then she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but whatever it was, I got up and we hugged each other. And then as I came back, I just said to her, I'm so sorry. I've never even asked you what your name is. And she said, Angelica. And then she said, I'm from Ukraine. And that just really kind of, and I thought, gosh, what have you been experiencing? Like, with seeing what goes on for the people of your country and everything that happens there. And it just kind of, when that humanises somebody. It wasn't just somebody that cleaned the rooms. There's this lady that I don't know what her past has been like. And I want that. I don't veer away from these feelings of like, oh my gosh, because I didn't feel comfortable in that moment, because I just thought, what, I didn't even ask your name. I didn't even make you a human being. And afterwards I thought, gosh, I wonder how weird people thought that was, that I was, hugging a member of the cleaning staff. And literally people were having their breakfast behind us and people were sat around us, but I didn't care. And then the taxi driver, Omar, the Uber driver who picked us up yesterday from the airport, who by the time we got home, me and him had a right conversation about why we love Nottingham and this whole multicultural, beautiful place that we live in, and the difference he's seen in 18 years and the difference I've seen in 10. And he shared the glorious news, that he's not only got two little boys, 7 and 3, that he is ultimately about to have another baby, and it's another little boy, and we were laughing, he having a football team type of thing. And just that, to me, these people who, just, I think it's that about being human. And we were chatting and he said something, and I just remember he said to me, not everybody feels like you do. And I was like, that people matter. That people matter, no matter what I look like on the outside, people matter. And I did say to him in that moment, I know I have a lot of privileges, that I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that you don't, and your children will possibly have to worry about, and I'm so sorry. I am sorry. I am. And I feel a sense of shame of that. And yet I don't want to sit in that, because that's not going to mean I act. And I think that's really important, is that why I wanted to share this today is that I don't think I'm alone in maybe silencing how I feel.
I think there's a lot of people who feel the way you
what
do.
matters, and
they don't know what to share because they're afraid of what they're going to get back, or because they feel maybe they don't know enough, or there's a huge set of things, isn't there, behind?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this, where it's like, when we were at the beginning there, where I was saying about, we were saying about getting 9 million people to kind of look together in some form of community, and we don't know how we would do that ultimately, but we just have this thing
15
about
15 million now.
Yeah, 15. It's like, it's that whole bit, isn't it? Exactly. I did more, but it is that whole thing of, enabling people to use their voice for humanity in a way that gives people back their power. Not that you give them power, but that people bring back their own power. Because I always remember we had a conversation once about being empowered, and that, if I'm saying my job is to empower you, it's still me giving you it. Whereas actually what I want to do is create a space where you empower yourself.
Yeah, let me help you navigate into your
own power and take back that.
And it's interesting because I think, there's such a nuance in all of this, right? Because like, there's I don't know how to say this without. Uh, so this sometimes is where it's like I need to catch my opinions because sometimes like I can say things and they come across a certain way and I'm like, no, I want to say this. There's this sentence that I think a lot of people are saying, and it's a lot of white coaches, a lot of white women, so, step into your power, and I don't disagree with what they're saying and that kind of thing, and I think it's really important that we're saying right now that this is about everybody having a voice, everyone having a voice. That's the point, and it's acknowledging the fact that we have a privilege to sometimes step aside and allow other people to use theirs. Do you know what I mean? Um, and this step into your power isn't some flouncy surface level. I don't. I'm struggling to explain this because it's like this isn't some wellness thing. Like all I can think about is Gwyneth Paltrow. Fucking goop, right? And this, like, we have too much money, so we're going to spend it on doing all of this stuff that actually we don't need. And I was sharing with, I don't even know who I was talking about. I think I was talking to Jade when we were on holiday about that there's this trend within some very high profile white communities in the US at the minute where where drinking water is frowned upon because drinking water isn't good for you. Right, just let me finish this. Drinking water isn't good for you. You should eat water because that's the best way to take water in. So it's basically these communities of people who are talking about the fact that the only way to really be hydrated is to eat constantly things that are like watermelons and melons and high cucumber, high water content food. But how privileged do you have to be to get to a point where you're making money off people by telling them not to drink water? Like, how privileged do you have to be? And I really want to take a second to fucking separate us from that because this is not continue to have your voice by oppressing other people.
No.
Like I really want to be really, really, really staunchly clear about that.
Yeah.
Because this is
Not at all.
white women come and stand with me and we're gonna have our power while oppressing other people. Because I do think that happens sometimes in this space. And I want to be really clear that we are actively not saying that. Like this is not that. This is not this is it your turn to shut up and listen? Is it your turn to say what you really mean? Is it, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's because when we come back to the core of why we started this business, that like knowing we matter thing, it gives other people their respect back. Because it's like when I know that I matter and that I matter whether I get to say my piece or not, I can then go, it's their turn to say it, actually. Like it's their turn to speak up.
I need to listen.
Yeah, it's my turn to I need to, because it's my turn to hear.
Listen. Yeah.
And not to center myself in this conversation. Because this isn't about me. Let me use my platform to give you a platform. Because that's what I can do. And I just really wanted to say that because I think there's so many words that are like they're just used in such a gross way online. And I do think that things like power and empowerment and alignment and things like that, and they're just co-opted by people who are just in it to make money. And I find that really hard to exist around. And I do think that a lot of those people started probably from the right place, But it's just become twisted. And I want to bring it back to the core. I want to bring it back to the core of why we talk about what we do and why we build what we do and why we're uncomfortable and happy to be uncomfortable and say these things. And it is that, like, because actually when you strip back the performative aspect of empowering, giving people the chance to feel empowered, like that isn't performative. That is the core of being a human. And I just really wanted to talk about the nuance of that because I just think that as two white women having a podcast, it would be very easy to pretend that doesn't exist and to not say those things. Do you know what I mean? But I wanted to just make sure that we did.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly.
I am very excited for you to share more. Like, I'm so excited for you to share more.
Actually, I've got something in my book that it's Lauren. She arrived. She came to give me a lift today, and she was given 4 books.
Yeah.
weren't you?
Poor Lauren. Poor Lauren with the 4 new books. I love it because we just collect
Gotta put my
books at
glasses
our
on
house.
in my writing.
So I'm growing a library.
Yes.
So anytime she gives me books, because she would have just given them back to charity or something, but I'm like, no, they can go in my library.
Well,
Thank
no,
you.
they're going in your library because I know where they are.
Yeah, I've got the amount of Cecilia Aherns I've got sat there, and
Lisa
Dorothy
Jewell.
Coomsons.
Yeah, Lisa Jewell, Claire Douglas, Alice Feeney. How do I not know about Alice Feeney? That
She
is
must
a
be the
new
new
little
one that you
book that I've
told
just
me.
given you.
Yeah, okay.
And
I'm
then the
excited
book
about
I
that.
want to quote from is Laura McBride.
Okay.
And this is actually, it was published in 2014 and it's called We Are Called to Rise. Now, I got this book from, there's a great bookshop in Nottingham that is a bit like a charity bookshop. But it's not an Oxfam or any of those.
Where is
It's specifically, it's up in Hockley,
Oh.
up to as you head towards Sneinton, and it's there. And Dad always goes every holiday. Before he goes on holiday, he goes buys a book from them.
I know where you mean.
Yeah. So I go in as well, and this book, We Are Called to Rise. And I loved when I read it's that. So I was looking at lots of different books. By the time I finished this book, the emotion that I was feeling for these
I'm so excited.
4 characters.
Is it in my pile?
You've got it. So there are 3 main characters, and then there's a 4th.
Okay.
So there is Avis, there is Louis, there is Bakrim, and then there is Roberta, and they are the 4 characters. And when you read this, I don't want to say any more about it, but
Yeah,
there is a bit right towards the end. I don't think this will ruin it for you.
That's fine.
But these are words said by a judge. And he says, there are times when all the pain, all these misunderstandings, all this hatred has made me wonder if we deserve this beautiful world, if we human beings should really be left in charge of it. But if sometimes an unspeakable horror arises from the smallest error, I choose to believe that it's possible for an equally unimaginable grandeur to grow from the tiniest gesture of love. I choose to believe that it works both ways, that great terror is the result of 1,000 small but evil choices, and great good is the outcome of another 1,000 tiny acts of care.
Oh, I feel really emotional listening to that.
It's
That's
honestly, I
beautiful.
don't know if Laura McBride, if I could ever, I need to find her, because that is such, it really got enough that I needed to write it down in my book when I read it. And it really got me thinking about why what we do feels like it matters, because it's that, isn't it? It's so easy, and this connection to, why it matters to understand my own physiology and my own, kind of nervous system, because for me it was like, I can see how it would feel understandable to be sensing this hopelessness, this fear, all of these things that are going on around us that we're being, we're seeing, and we're kind of being bombarded a little bit by it, not a little, a lot by it at the minute. And yet we get to choose if we understand how to shift this, if we get to see that, I'm not going to stand for that. And actually how I can deal with it is I can do these 1,000 tiny acts of care, and it's this whole bit. And I love what he says, unimaginable grandeur to grow from the tiniest gesture of love. And it's that part about, when we think about random acts of kindness, my words were coming out wrong there. It's that, isn't it, that every time I do speak up, every time I do, speak to somebody, or with kindness, or humanize somebody, or, take a moment rather than to be angrily kind of hating on somebody, or, blaming, I get to change the world in that little way. And I do think this is what matters to me, is for people to understand. Elizabeth Gilbert said it, do no harm. Harm can come from us, and when we're not understanding ourselves, or being able to work with how we are, that whole bit, and that takes work, it takes time. It's a bloody privilege to have the opportunity to even do this work that we do. I do know that a lot of people don't get that. And then there's another bit, so a different character, Well, I've got a couple if it's okay to read. So Avis, who is one of the main characters, she says what is most beautiful is least acknowledged. What is worth dying for is barely noticed. It just made me think, the stopping, and I haven't bought it yet, but there is, you won't be surprised, it's a book.
Shock.
But there's a book that I read about yesterday that is, being able to see what we're not seeing. And I know we've got our group, haven't we, that is all about glimmers. And
yeah, if you want to join it, it's totally free. It's a group on Facebook that's called the Blondes Glimmer Collective.
Yeah, and it literally, for me, it's this. And this woman brings together 11 people who, in their own nuance, see things differently in their own place. And she said she goes on a walk with one of them that shows her all the things that this person sees in this block where she lives, that she thinks is quite boring, and yet this person shows them it through different eyes and different perspectives. So I love that. So what is most beautiful is least acknowledged. What is worth dying for is barely noticed. And then this other character. And I realise this is something new, to feel everything that has happened, but to also feel something that is happening now. I don't feel buried by the feeling. I feel bigger, big enough to have two different feelings at once. And that for me, just even this whole part, because something you said a little bit earlier, and I don't know that it was on air, or it might have been at the beginning, was this whole part about, having this space within to be angry about what we're seeing and wanting things to be different, and not wanting to silently sit by while people are being oppressed, whilst also knowing that you want to be able to enjoy the joy in life.
It was off air. It was when I was talking about my struggle with agreeing with everyone and being able to see, just being able to see where people are coming from. Like, it makes it hard because it's like I want to I want to stand and go, and make sure that people are listening, and that people are being heard, and that oppression isn't being ignored, and that I'm standing for the right things. And I want to experience my little joys. And, I want to be able to share those at the same time. And it's that knowing that things don't have to be one way or the other. And we've talked about black and white thinking a lot. And I think you talk a lot about expansion and about the fact that actually this is about expanding. And I just, when you said that about like tiny moments of care, those thousands of tiny moments of care, imagine all of those people who was like angrily sat behind their keyboards. And I am one of those people a lot of the time. Imagine if collectively, instead of sitting behind our keyboard, all of us chose to go out and do one thing that was good for the community. Like maybe I go down to the local nursing home and sit and have conversations with people who haven't seen people for a while. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe I go to a local refugee centre and offer to look after their kids while they're job hunting. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of these, if I chose to do a tiny little moment, even if it was just refilling my bird feeder instead of angrily commenting at something online, like a tiny moment, if thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people chose to stop sharing these opinions which are blameful. And I'm not talking about fighting for your rights.
No,
it's different.
No.
This is just the people who are trying to blame. If we just did something nice instead. That's kind of like a scary thought, isn't it? I read a book. I've read it a couple of times. I just adore it. It's called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And I can't remember the name of the author now. I'll have to write it down. It's next to my bed because I read it quite often. And that is a stunning book for how different people and different lives can be seen from different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful for that. And I think it's just that, isn't it? It's accepting that things can happen. Things can exist at the same time. Like, I can be a really good person and do bad things and make bad choices and be a grump, and all, just the nuance of that. So, time-wise, I would just like to say thank you. And do come on and share. Tell us what you think. Like, this is not a closed conversation. And one of the things that we've talked about before is the fact that we're not here to change people's opinions. That isn't the reason this exists. We're here to invite conversation and just to make sure that through all of this, that you know you matter
Mm.
in the world.
One of the things that I've learned is great questions actually, are openers in our minds to see things sometimes from different perspectives. And I guess that really just even to get you thinking about what has this evoked, this conversation. How do you feel about the way that you use your voice? What matters to you? What are the things that make you angry? And because one of the things that I know that's often when we talk about values, one of the quickest ways to find out what you value is
It's what I talk about all the time.
yeah.
What pisses you off?
What makes you angry? Notice it.
Yeah, because you can really look at like your community and stuff and start thinking about what as a community would piss you all off, and all of a sudden you've got a connected value across all of you there.
Even that though, because coming back to what you've just said a moment ago about reach out to the local refugee centre, find a cause that matters to you, to be able to give back to the community. Find like-minded people. I'd love to get online or even in person with people and have a group where we talk about what matters to us and how can we begin our own wave of these 1,000 tiny acts of care. I love that. Unimaginable grandeur. Unimaginable grandeur. That's where I'm at. I would love your thoughts on how do we start that.
Amazing. Thanks for being with us, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
See ya.